Hi, everybody. My name is Timothy Gager, and welcome to Virtual Fridays, Dire Literary Series, where today my feature and my featured guest is writer Kara Vernor. And I look forward to, I've done a lot of research, and I've read up, and I'm really looking forward to hearing you read. Will you be reading from Because I Wanted to Write You a Pop Song, or are you going to read something new?
I'm just going to read some new stuff.
Okay, that's great. And let me tell you a little bit about Kara. And here's the wonderful intro. And this is her website. So instead of me reading to you, you can go to karavernor.com, and there's a lot of great stuff about her book, which came out 3 or 4 years ago. And it's a wonderful book. And we'll talk a little bit about that in craft a little later on. And I'm going to now just turn it on over to her. And Kara, you can take it away.
Great. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I think I'm going to read 4 very short pieces, but maybe just 3. I think I might hit like 11 minutes, and I don't want to go over the 10. So I'm going to try to read fast, but yeah, they're pretty short. Okay. So this first one is called Manhandlers. Many women are handlers. They're better taking, can you hear my neighbors? Okay, sorry. I'm gonna start over. Many women are handlers. They're better at taking care of business because their brain hemispheres are pals. If their hemispheres went to the bar, they'd talk breezily over a hummus plate and beers, while men's would only eye each other from across the pool table. That's what I learned at the JC, though sure are in different words. I learned too, and this part is verbatim, that depressed people are more realistic, which if you think about it, is a sad fact for all of us. I've never understood wanting to handle a man because even though I have the hemispheres for it, I can't find the motivation. I suffer generally from low motivation and the inability to bring anything but store-bought food to potlucks. I am destined for a life of handling only myself. My brother can handle no one else nor himself, but maybe that is to be expected. It's obvious he regrets not being born with cabinet handles screwed into his deltoids so a good-looking woman can grab a hold and steer him. A woman like that would have stopped him from jumping off the rooftop into a pool on a dare. His belly flopped smack, frightening the dog, who took off into the street as the stretch Hummer was bringing more cocaine. Maybe then he wouldn't have ruined the party for everyone else, including his former best friend and kickball team captain, Tommy. Maybe he would have lasted more than 6 months at a job. There are women, I know many of them, who handle for free, who remind men what to buy at the store and when to call their mothers to wish them happy birthday, and how many lines is too many lines in the exact words to use in conversations that are not about the weather or sports. If my psych professor did a study, he'd find that these women are a statistically significant reason men still occupy the presidency and Congress and the management positions at the fast food establishments I frequent, though the majority of the line staff are not men. I've counted. So when my brother stopped by and said he'd been fired again, this time from his job selling Hyundais, because he was boning the secretary and why can't we go back to the 80s when it was still legal to have fun, I felt a bolt of energy, an idea. I grabbed his shoulder and looked seriously into his face. I told him to buy that secretary some flowers and whatever ring he could afford and get down on one knee and also say these specific things when he's doing it, because we had a shot at swindling a handling professional into a lifetime of free services. And even with the lackluster communication between his hemispheres, he ought to be able to recognize that deal. He agreed, I think. I don't know. He said a new episode of Top Gear would be on soon and could we talk about it later? But I mean, realistically speaking, what other options does he have? Okay. This next one is called More Sex. I used to have more sex than the other women I knew, the men too. I wondered, is the behavior automatically abnormal if it falls outside a norm? I would step on each stair, the 4 flights up to my studio, reminiscing the moles, the wrinkles, the stray squirrely hairs. I used to wonder if something was wrong with me. A friend once said I hunted sex, but that was dramatic. I had no violence in me or need to mount trophies. I was no conquistador or adolescent boy. A few times when I was motivated by loneliness, I did commit a foul. My desperation dulled the party. My desperation like an old high school friend in from out of town who I was stuck bringing along. But most of the time I found no reason for shame. Besides certain meals, roasted crab, wild mushroom and charred risotto, there's nothing better than sex with someone you've never smelled before. Nothing better than catching an eye, the camera focusing on one flower in a field. The first careful words and ensuing flirtation, the unbearable unbearable anticipation while searching for 4 private walls. And at last, his bare body, a brand new New York City, all the dirty alleys, all the splendor. The sex I had wasn't wholly spectacular. Occasionally, a penis wasn't for me. Some were discolored or shaped like an overweight banana. Others were attached to an alcoholic and a bit soft. I found this more in my 30s than my 20s, the sexual dysfunctions of unmarried men. That's not why I no longer have sex. I guess I became interested in other quests, to rebloom my orchids year after year. But I wish I had had more sex before my libido waned. In middle age now, I think of the hours of dark I wasted, the even more men I could have traveled. I do miss bodies, some touch other than the dogs, other than the hugs of my friends. If only I wanted sex now, I could have touch anytime. The technology exists, the online menu of willing men. It's true that life is short, but also long. I don't know why people don't have all the sex they can while they're young and driven to it. All right, this next one is called The Critic. At an estate sale, I bought an oil painting in a gilded frame of a severe-looking man who I do not find attractive. The painting is skilled. A glint in the man's eye and a flush in his face make him seem animate, but the man himself appears harsh, so I do not often look at him. The painting hangs on the wall my desk faces. I notice in moments when I've stopped typing on my keyboard, when I've been staring into oblivion, that his eyes are like mine, shadowed by the weight of his brow, the outer corners downturned, or rather, they are the eyes of my father, who passed them on to me and who was also severe. I can tell by the strength of his nose, the tight crease between his lips, that the man was distinguished in his time. His unattractiveness did not prevent him from standing proudly for hours, while a talented painter preserved his face for future generations. His black cloak and white collar suggest gainful employment in an official position. But more than his clothes, his face and bold hair, the tufts of gray muffing his ears, emanate final decisions. I admit I've tried to force him to look away, to blink first. The angle of his chin antagonizes. When I grow tired of his steady attention, I tilt the frame. At the restaurant where my father and I ate our dinners, the walls held ordinary landscape paintings, evenly spaced. My father would gaze past me into their distance when I spoke to him, until he grew angry at me for talking too much. I can't make out the signature on the back of the canvas, but the date remains, 1881. I don't know enough about history to say definitively if he was a live man painted at that time, which I assume, or a dead man painted from a photograph taken 30 years earlier, which is a possibility. Either way, he's dead now, like my father, except on the wall above my desk, where his judgment lives on. Okay, I'm gonna get one more in there. Read fast. This is called The Night Here. This one was just published in a flash journal called Pithead Chapel just a few days ago. But my mom was a starlet in makeup. When she'd kissed me goodbye on her way to work, I wanted to steal the black crumbs from her eyelashes and rub them into mine. She was magic, a magic flight attendant, I used to think. I thought she attended a plane that traveled through time. Passengers needed free soda and salted peanuts and a nice face to remind them to be brave, even more. They needed my mom. It's yesterday where I am, she'd say when she called home from a trip. Or it's night here and the moon is almost full. But I'd be eating cheddar goldfish from a cup and watching Looney Tunes reruns after school. Pacific Standard Time and Greenwich Mean Time meant after didn't always follow before. I should have said I could travel time. I'm a bad mom because I never told you I was a time traveler. You could have humored me, I say. I've not seen her for 7 years. She's softer. Gravity has relaxed her face. We're sitting at a round table costumed in linens while my younger brother rocks his bride through Savage Gardens, I Knew I Loved You, their first dance. So it's my fault you're not happy, is what you're saying. I thought it was our secret. When I asked her if Noah's Ark was smelly or whether dinosaurs were nicer in person, she'd say, "What are you talking about, honey?" I took it as an act, a wink wink. I used to brag to my friends about all the historical people she was meeting. As they got older and stopped believing me, I pushed her to admit it. I'm not unhappy, I say. Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba breaks the newlyweds apart. His dancing becomes the jet and thrust of his pelvis, hers mostly the pumping of her boobs. I can see how they make sense together. How's art school? You're studying painting. She swallows half a flute of champagne. Without a buffer, she left Donnie at home and I couldn't find a date. It's just us and everything we've never said. I was a dumb kid, that's fine. But thinking you were doing important things, fixing history, that's what got me through you being gone. Lacey, please. I should have said what? That I had had lunch with Gandhi? That I had found Amelia Earhart? I mean, yeah, something like that. Or maybe the truth, that I didn't love your dad anymore, rest his soul. I didn't set out to do it, I didn't set out to do it, I didn't set out to do it, Couples are rising around us, headed to the dance floor, hand in hand. She sets down her glass and reapplies her slightly orange-red lipstick. Let's go be there for your brother. She stands and smooths her skirt. Coming? I'll be there in a minute, I say, because I have the grace to. Ricky Martin chants un, dos, tres through the speakers, and the dance floor erupts. A groomsman throws a fistful of confetti from a table centerpiece. On a clear day in Florida when I was in 6th grade, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded into spiraling white plumes. Watching the news with my class, I conceded my mom wasn't back in time fixing anything. I wept at my desk, letting everyone think I was mourning the loss of the first teacher headed to space, an ordinary woman brave enough to do extraordinary things. Thanks.
Wow, thank you so much. That was a really great reading, and it was really impressive. It's hard to stay focused when there's background noise going on, and you did a great job. And we could hear you perfectly. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff you've read. It was all recently published, correct? So I recognized a couple of the other pieces.
Yes. Yes, the two shortest ones were published at Juked, which is a really fantastic online journal as well. And then Manhandlers was published at a one called Trash Magazine, which it was brand new, and a friend started it. She's Canadian, and so it's like writing and skateboarding and music and a mix of stuff.
So your previous book was flash fiction. With these newer works, does that mean there's another book of flash fiction in the works, or is there something else happening?
I have about enough now maybe to do another chapbook, but a chapbook of stuff, I have random things that sort of don't hang together, but enough to have a chapbook of stuff that probably hangs together thematically. Probably about half the size of the one I have out, which wasn't like a typical chapbook size, it was longer. So perhaps, hopefully, if someone, is interested in publishing it at some time. And then I have a novel manuscript that I'm attempting to, get representation for.
Yeah, that's a difficult task, but good luck. That your writing is great. And so is flash fiction though, is that your comfortable jam pretty much, or are you able just to go in and out of other form?
Uh, I have never written like a regular size short story. But then I have this novel manuscript. So maybe I just go either short or long. But yeah, no, flash fiction was my first instinct in terms of writing. Like I was writing that before I really knew what to call it. So that's definitely where I sort of naturally tend towards. And yeah, that kind of thing.
I brought the karma of background noise. I think someone's mowing the lawn right behind me. So anyway, so along with that, there's so much versatility that can happen in flash fiction. You can go the narrative route, you can go the narrative poetry route, you can go the total magical realism. Do you grasp at all of them? Because what you read tonight was very narrative, told story.
I mean, I would say that it's definitely, well, I mean, it's all prose, and sometimes, I mean, I've written a couple things that sort of get into the I mean magical realism zone, but a lot of it is kind of more realist, I would say. I'm not doing much like speculative writing. Yeah,
So
yeah.
along with realism, someone asked, this is a great piggyback. So what would you say is your mix of truth versus fiction within your stories? And if you had to say percentage-wise, where are we?
Well, I mean, it depends on the story, but I would say that they're all actually fiction. There may have been like details or elements I've pulled from my life. That's usually true. There's usually at least something in there. Um, but sorry, the neighbor's dog was making a ruckus. But I would say that what I do with them, like the way they're presented and the point of them and the perspective is fiction. And so sometimes I worry like with people who know me and actually can recognize, a point or two that they think is real, that they then will think all of it is real or whatnot. And it's not. So, I mean, it is fiction.
So it's basically, does the reader need to understand a writer's twisted mind?
A writer's what?
Twisted mind in terms of twisting the truth.
Do they need to, or are you saying they should?
Well, do they need to?
I think they just have to engage with what's on the page. So I don't know. Sometimes I think people get what they read or they don't and can't engage with it. But I don't know about knowing someone's mind. Your question made me think about Diane Williams, the writer, and she wrote a book called, I want to say it's called A Romancer Erector, maybe. And it's just wild. And I didn't understand most of it, but I really liked it. I liked the sound of her language, and it's really transgressive. So I don't know if I need to understand her personally. I just think I need to engage with her work.
Well, before we logged on officially, Kurt Lovelace is in this room, talked about a picture that you posted, books in an earthquake, and they were your books, and it wasn't your earthquake, but the earthquake that hit you. Did you write anything do you have a story about an earthquake somewhere?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I have that in any of the flash fiction, but I do mention earthquakes a couple times in my novel manuscript, but there's no actual earthquake that happens. It takes place it sort of takes place off the page because it takes place in 88 to 89. So the book ends literally about a month before that earthquake happens. So if you happen to know that in that area, that's a thing you could think about. But
A lot of the reviews of your last book, they talked about you using dark humor, and in the stories you read today, you definitely throw in some very funny lines in some situations that aren't necessarily funny. Do you use in your day-to-day life, do you use dark humor? Like,
yeah, I mean, yes, definitely guilty as charged.
What was the last time that you used it like at a party or something? It didn't quite go over well because I can be guilty of that one.
I don't know if I can think of a specific example. It happens. Oh, actually, I can think of one example. I was telling somebody about I was telling something. This is bad. So you're gonna get me in trouble. That's what you're trying to do.
No,
Basically,
not at all.
I was telling somebody about a another story I want to write, and there's a character in it who basically she fakes having Tourette's so she can yell during her workday and tell people to fuck off when she wants to, which I think is kind of funny. But if you're someone who like, takes, is cares a lot about mental health and that type of thing, you might be offended by that. I mean, I'm not saying she's a good person or anything, but even just like sometimes even just talking about unlikable characters, people are like, ooh. So.
But don't you have to have unlikable characters or sometimes really awful characters just to have that conflict in work?
Yeah, but I think a lot of times people want the bad characters to get punished for being bad. And so if you don't necessarily punish them exactly, or you give them more space on the page, or you let them be an anti-hero or whatnot, sometimes I think folks get upset. And there was just a great quote from Otessa Moshfegh that went around the internet where she was talking about how novels shouldn't be after school specials. And I agree with that. I tend to like stuff that has a mix. Not that like, you can't have an uplifting and happy and likable. I mean, I read those books too, but I'd like to have room for the whole span.
But My Son is a Punk Rocker was a very entertaining after school special. Just so where Jeffrey, oh, I think it's on YouTube. It's awesome. But Jeffrey Vernor asked, we're going to double back a little bit. Where does that dark humor or the dark side come from? Is it a writer's technique or is it in your psychology?
I mean, it's in my psychology. I didn't manifest it. I don't fake it. I'm not like an actress on the page. I mean, it's there. I think most people who tend towards humor blame that on, can I swear on this?
Yes.
Okay.
FCC is not going to find me.
Blame that on kind of fucked up childhoods. I think there's a line in, I want to say it was in Amy Poehler's book where she's like, I want my kid to be just fucked up enough to be funny when they're, an adult. But otherwise, okay. So anyway, I imagine that there's something to that, but.
Now you were talking about being not an actress within the page. So if you're writing say a particularly evil character, or on the other hand, a particular joyous character, do you have to get into that state of mind at all?
Yeah, I think, I'm not an actress because I don't necessarily become the character. Like, I don't think I'm like, put on their clothes and use their voice and then write from them. I think I'm imagining people I've known, people I've seen. I'm trying to recreate them. I'm not necessarily becoming them. I guess maybe that's a fine point or a nuance. But yeah, I feel like I'm more trying to channel things I've seen or people I've known or situations. But
do you ever use music to create mood?
What's that?
You ever use music to create mood? Like background music when you write?
No, not too often. No, I've done more ekphrastic pieces, actually. I probably have about 5 that come from just like looking at art in my room or whatever. But not so much music. I can't hear music and sort of like think deeply at the same time. Unless it's just instrumental.
Now, who do you love as a flash fiction writer? Like, name some of your favorites.
Oh boy, on the spot. that's a losing game, because I always forget someone who I love, and then if someone sees this, they'll be offended. So
Oh, the last great piece you read. That way we'll leave it open-ended.
oh boy, last great piece I read. Well, I'll go with Edgar Carrot, because I love him so much, and he's been in the New Yorker and everything. He's sort of next level, but he's one of my favorites. He's funny. He's realistic. He does do some magical realism, but I think he's really fantastic. Leonora Dessar is another one who I think is I tend to like the kind of like somewhat funny, weird. I mean, I like a lot of things, but when I think about the like probably the ones I gravitate to the most, John Jodzio is another who used to write a lot of flash fiction. He still does some, but then he did he did like a regular length short story collection through Soft Skull. Kathy Fish is one of the first ones that I read, and I've loved her
a year ago. Yeah.
Since I picked that up. When I first started writing Flash, someone gave me one of those Flash collections from Rose Metal Press, and I'd say that press, just everyone, I mean, they just consistently publish great writing.
And that is, I believe that Rose Metal Press one, it talks about the techniques that the person used, and then there's a story behind it, if I have that correct. This Tara Massive?
Yeah, so that's the field guide to writing flash fiction. Yeah, but then they also publish collections and chapbooks. They have a couple of, there's like 4 chapbooks and 1 book kind of thing. I guess that's an anthology.
Camilla asked, what inspires you most?
Well, that's funny, because actually a lot of times when I'm listening to music, it'll kick off something, but I can't keep listening to the music while I'm writing. But I would say I think that writing, I continue to be sort of compelled to write, even though it's like painful and very difficult, because I like writing things that are somewhat transgressive. Like I really want to be able to expand what's okay and what's truthful and what's honest and like what we can talk about. I mean, it's not like a mission. Again, I'm not like a writer with a, specific mission to change the world, etc. But I just feel like I constantly want to write about the things we're not supposed to talk about.
Well, I see also in this interview, you've already described aphrastic work and also now listening to music. So it sounds to me like you're a sensory writer. Now, when you're in a zone and producing a lot, can you just pick up on anything and have a story about it?
No, I don't think I've ever been in a zone where I've produced a lot. Like I'm a slow writer. I often what I do is I just need to get one sentence that I like, and that could be a struggle. Like sometimes it's hard. I will just shut myself in a dark room and just like struggle to get like one good sentence that I like. And if I can manage to get that, the rest will eventually come. I mean, I don't know where it's leading. I don't have a sense of plot ahead of time. So when I'm really like, I can't think of what to write about, etc., which happens to me all the time, I try to just force out one good sentence.
Does that sentence usually appear as the hook in the beginning of the story, or can it appear anywhere?
A lot of times it's the first sentence. Sometimes it's not through editing. Sometimes it's the title, or it becomes shortened and it becomes the title and the rest of the piece came out of it. So that's kind of like a go-to technique, but not every story starts that way. Sometimes there's just like some random dynamic I want to try to capture or whatnot. But
so I read that you are a grant writer at the Animal Legal Defense System. Does that open or close your world up to your creative writing?
I would say mostly that it closes. I mean, grant writing is not, it's not creative writing. It's very different, as lots of folks probably know who do that. But I mean, just being immersed in that world and understanding what we do to animals has certainly influenced some things I've written. Because I'm reading all the time about really traumatic and horrific things. And so I think when I write, sometimes that's a way to process the harder things in life. And so certainly that's one of the harder things. You know, it's a great job, but like a lot of nonprofits, you're also working like with trauma essentially, and a lot of the harder, you know, a lot of horrific things in life. So, you know, there's that. I'm seeing that.
Is there enough being done to prevent the animal trauma?
No, not even close. Not even anywhere close. Yeah.
Is it more, the grants you write, is it more about like the food industry are we talking about? Or are we just talking about like, you know, Fluffy's being kicked to the curb by the bratty neighbor? Or, I mean, what is, sorry, that just sounded really like a shitty condescending thing to say, but what, like, are you, like, who are you taking on, I guess is how I should probably phrase that question.
Yeah, so the organization works within the legal system. So there's a litigation department, and they bring cases against the government and corporations and puppy mills and roadside zoos. And so kind of the whole gamut. There's also a legislative affairs department, so they're working on establishing laws or stopping laws. We've done a lot of work on ag-gag laws, which are like, a lot of them are just real violations of the First Amendment, which say that like you can't take undercover footage in a factory farm, for example. And they prevent people from, like, you know, just their First Amendment rights, reporting on what they're seeing. And then we have a criminal justice department. And so they work with folks, they work with prosecutors and judges and whatnot, because a lot of folks in the criminal justice system didn't specialize in animal law. They don't have like the depth of understanding around it. So they will we train that group or work with them or advise them, or generally try to build their capacity to bring justice to animals.
Do animals seep their way into some of your stories?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, they always have. I would say they have a little more, since it's like on my mind all the time. Previous to this job, I was working for a more like a human services nonprofit. So now that my brain is fully in the world of animal cruelty, it comes up a little more often. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming in here and talking to us and reading to us. People should check out your last book, because I wanted to write you a pop song, which is a wonderful book of flash fiction, and look for future works. And thank you very much, Kara Vernor.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, fantastic. I'm now going to say goodbye to our Facebook friends, if they are our friends. If they're not our friends, I'll just say goodbye to them anyway, if they're watching. And if you want to participate in the open mic, log on to the Zoom. When you want to participate in the questions and answers, log on to the Zoom next time. So goodbye, and we'll see you next week when our guest will be Meredith Goldstein.